Each part of the ocean has a different characteristic. The part of the ocean that we were rowing through is called the Sargasso Sea. And it was called the Sargasso Sea because when Christopher Columbus and his crew first went through this sea, they picked up these little seaweeds that had these little round balls in them, like grapes. And there's this grape in Portugal called the Sargasso. And they called it Sargasso. And the Sargasso Sea is the saltiest part of all the oceans. There's a current that comes up from the Caribbean and feeds a giant gyre in there. We popped off of the west coast and rode up into that. And we saw incredible wildlife. Also, came face to face with danger when we were out there. It was about 10 days in when the seriousness of the row actually sunk in. We were going through a storm system, and the waves are about 3 meters high, so maybe a bit around the height of the ceiling, maybe a bit more. And so we're bobbing up and down, and every once in a while a rogue wave will come. And so there's positive interference of the waves, for those of you who remember physics class, where the waves will literally just stack up on top of one another. And there's a wave that came, it was about 4 times the size of the other waves. And so we're rowing around, there's 2 guys on deck, and there's 2 guys sleeping in the cabin. This wave comes, it crashes over us, and it nearly knocks Jordan, my partner, off the boat. And thankfully he's tied on, we've got our life jackets on. Then we start skidding down the side, our boat kind of turns completely on its side. Then we hear screaming from the cabin inside, because the guys who were sleeping, they'd fallen on top of each other, right? And they're sleeping naked. So, so we get to the bottom of the wave, and snap! One of our oars breaks. And these oars, we innovated to make these oars extra strong. They're wood wrapped in carbon fiber. And last row, the oar locks kept on breaking, so we strengthened the oar locks. And this time, I guess we strengthened them too much because they got stuck in the boat and snapped the oar. And I remember sitting there, we deployed our safety gear, which is a sea anchor, essentially an underwater parachute that opens up and aligns the boat, for those of you who've sailed before. And you can kind of bob up and down in the water, you're aligned with the weather, and wait for the storm to pass. And I remember sitting there with the broken oar, and I was thinking, well, this is this really what I want to do, right? Because before I had left, my wife had made me write a letter to my son just in case I had died. So, and so before, it was tough. Like, it was tough to write that letter, but well, I don't know if it's thankfully, but Jordan, his father died when he was about 3, died of an asthma attack, and so I was able to talk to him and say, well, what do you put in a letter for a son? Like, what do you wish you would have known about your father? And he said, well, I think it's the stuff that people don't really talk about that I want to know. I want to know, what are your faults? What are your vulnerabilities? What do you think of God? What do you think of politics? These things that people we tend to sweep under the table and having very intimate conversations. And so I guess it was a good exercise to go through that. But at the same point in time, zooming back into the boat, sitting there with a broken oar, it made me think, well, I definitely want to make it to the other side, right? And so one of the concepts that helped me through that moment and through most of the row, because it's there are times when you're wondering why you're doing it. It was the concept of looking how far you've come. And I think it's important that we look back at our paths in life and realize how far that we've actually come to get to this this point in time.